All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here to our second installment of the Pictures Up panel series. Today is with our lovely hair and makeup department folks. My name is Dylan Brodie. I'm your moderator and just like general cult leader here. So first off, thank you to all of our sponsors that have brought this here. This is Tulsa Film Collective, the Tulsa Artist Fellowship, Tulsa FMAC, Citizens of Sound, Mr. Will Rutherford here. Ian Upton is filming us here today. Crazy Eagle Media, Mr. Sterling Harjo's company. And then our matchmaker, Tiffany Tavares, who is somewhere here helping make all of this happen. Oh, she's over at Crafty right now. Thank you so much, Tiff. We love you. All right, here. So what we're going to just start off here, just if we can go down the line, introduce yourself, and then we'll kick off the panel from there. So also, besides introducing yourself, tell me a little about like your job first, just kind of give an overview to the folks listening here.
Okay, hi, my name is Sharon Tabb, and I am a department head makeup artist, and I'm currently working on The Sensitive Kind. And then what else? Also, side note, we are working on the show right now with Sterling Harjo that's tentatively called Sensitive Kind. The title's going to change. We can't announce it yet, so I just get to act like a dummy to saying like I don't know what it is right now. So yes, let's just say we're working on The Sensitive Kind. Okay, we're working on The Sensitive Kind. And do you want me to elaborate?
Yeah, just talk about a little bit what your job entails.
Okay, so as department head, I help we read the script, we break down characters, I speak with the director, I speak with the actors, and we kind of come up with what we feel like it's definitely a collaborative thing. You know, it's not like just all me. I'm just like a part of the puzzle here. And then I help build the teams, like whoever's going to be my key or bring in the additional artists in. I work directly one-on-one with the actors. I will usually reach out to the actors and find out if they have allergies, find out what their preferences are. You want to make them feel as comfortable as possible. And then I think my biggest thing, working in the department, is creating a positive environment. There should literally be, it's a no drama zone whatsoever. And I think that shows with the kind of people that I do bring in. And I don't know, we have a lot of fun. I mean, it's hard to imagine that I actually get paid for this.
And before we go to Dalton here, I just want to kind of give a side note here. So the HMU department is so vitally important because actors are our product. And they sort of operate as the therapist for our actors, and they set the vibes. And because they start their day, they end their vibes and end their day in the trailer. And their mood, it really dictates their product. So you are also vitally important to making sure that we're getting a good product because you set the tone for the day.
I think that is crucially important. If an actor comes in and they're not in a great mood, you need to figure out a way to make it like a better situation. You need to just be very up. I mean, it should always be, they're going to ask you about you and, you can tell them, but don't be like, okay, well, God, now this happened at my home. You got to keep it professional and just keep it very uplifting and make them feel good and make them feel confident. And it sets the tone. It's so true.
And you all do it so very well. Okay, Dalton.
Hi, my name is Dalton Spence. I'm a key makeup artist on The Sensitive Kind. In short, basically my job is just to support my department head and just kind of pick up the slack when she's not able to, and I'll pass it to David.
My name is David Atherton, and I'm a makeup artist. I'm here in support of our lead actor in this show. I do run shows too, but in this particular show, I only do one actor. So it works out great for me. Sharon and Dalton do all the work, and I just kind of hang around. So.
My name is Amy Wood. I'm a hair department head, and sometimes key and sometimes do background. I kind of do everything. Sharon kind of took it away with what we do. There is a lot of people managing, not just doing hair, a lot of organization and a lot of clerical things that you have to keep in mind. To touch on the importance of having a trailer, I like to create a Zen den. So, we're the first people that the actors see, and we do have to be a little uplifting. You don't want to be like, well, my cat died and then my uncle died. You know what I mean? You have to keep the spirit up for the actors when they come in. They're tired. Sometimes they don't want to be there, and we're just there to kind of support each other and support them and make a good working environment for them.
Can I interject on that? Just so everyone's clear, the only reason any of us have a job in the movie business, is to help an actor put their character on film. That's the only reason Joe, who is our cinematography man, that's the only reason he's there, is to record a character and put it on film. And that's our job. Otherwise, we shouldn't be here. And part of that, helping them put their character on film, is to create an environment where they can be in the makeup trailer preparing for their work. Acting is such an understood profession. Actors work so hard, and they don't work hard when they get to the set. They work hard building what they're building to put onto the film at night, after work, before work. And we would be doing them such a disservice if we didn't understand that, and that we're just here to help put that image on film.
Thank you so much, David. Kasey.
My name is Kasey Cooper, and I'm the key hairstylist on The Sensitive Kind. A big part of what my job entails is supporting my department head and helping them, but also keeping up with continuity, taking photos of the looks of the actors, putting in notes if they tuck their hair behind their ear or if they get messy or anything like that. And also, helping support that environment that we're all talking about. You have to be able to kind of read and gauge the person in your chair's mood. Sometimes you can gauge that, okay, yeah, they kind of want to talk a little bit. They want to have conversation. Or you can gauge like, oh, they want to be quiet. They need to kind of be in their head. Or also, making sure that you are quiet while if there's more than one actor in there and they want to run lines together, you're just silently doing your job so that they can focus on whatever they need to focus on that morning to start their day the right way. And we make sure that we are able to kind of read and gauge where they are so that we can help support that.
Thank you so much. And then to put a fine point on what some of you have talked about as well, it's not just making actors look good to be on film. There's also a ton of clerical work too, because in film, we don't traditionally shoot in sequential order. So that we can be shooting one piece of a shot that gets picked up many, many days later. So you're tracking the continuity of that. And then also actors are fidgety people, and they're always touching their hair and moving things around. You have to make sure that they're ready with each take. It can be super windy like it's been lately in Oklahoma. You got to make sure that they're all reset for every take. So it's not just making everyone look good. So thank you for all of that. So I'm going to also go down the line here again. So I want to hear about your origin story, and not necessarily just like your first day on set, but just like who you were before, because I say this a lot. It's like your origin does not dictate your future. Just like, tell us how you got here.
Okay, I gladly will. Okay, so growing up, I was always an artist. I knew I was going to do something with art, but I had no idea what I was going to do. Being a foreign artist, that's obviously not going to happen at 18, 19 years old. So basically, I was told that I had two choices. I'm going to go to art school, clearly, but I'm going to either be basically a teacher, an art teacher, or graphic design. And both of those sounded horrible. And I just was so depressed, but I just went ahead and I started off in a community college, art major, kind of just like, well, I don't know what's going to happen here. I get my first job at, while I was going to school, I started working at a local department store, and they put me in designer dresses. Okay, so I was 19 at the time, and I became number one sales, and I actually got demoted. And the reason I got demoted is they pulled me into, I want to say the principal's office, but it was the store manager's office. And they're like, yeah, well, you socialize too much. You talk too much. We're going to put you as a floater, which was just like heartbreaking, because that just means I was basically lowered down to, you're just going to go help wherever they need some help. Well, my first helping job was at the Chanel counter. And I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome. And the person who was the manager of that station or whatever, the counter, they were on maternity leave. So they're like, you're going to cover this for 3 months. Well, I was in heaven because I did makeup. I love doing makeup. I actually did all my friends' makeup when we would go out to the club. I was the cat eyeliner queen. And so I was just like, okay, I can actually get paid for this. Well, I am not even kidding you. That is when I like literally had this like revelation. I want to do makeup. This is it. This is like what I want to do. I don't want to work in retail, but this is where it starts. And I knew then there in my gut, like this is where I'm going to go. But like now, what do I do? Like I'm at a counter. It's like 1991. I am 19 years old. There's no internet. I know nobody in the industry. So I was just like, well, all right, well, I'll just do this for now, kind of like learn how to put makeup on people. Everybody came in, did makeup. Well, at the end of that 3 months, they were like, yeah, we're keeping you in this department because I had done really, really well. But you're 19. It's not really a good fit for Chanel. So we're going to put you at another counter. Went right over to the other counter. And during this time, I start calling all the makeup schools in Hollywood because at the time I was in Riverside, California. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to go to makeup school. No big deal. Well, all the makeup schools were like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Did not have the money for that. So then I'm just like, okay, now what am I going to do? So I basically tried to self-teach myself. Went to the library, got some books, went to esthetician school to start off, got my first like makeup job, if you will, was for a non-smoking video for like Riverside County Smoking Department. I'm like, okay, how do I make these people look old, like smokers? They're like, they need to have sallow skin. I just had to do my own research and just figure it out. And so that was like my first like, doing some production work. But it didn't start there. I mean, it took years and years because at the time I didn't know anybody in the industry and it's kind of been a long journey. But after that, I also became a floral designer because I kind of had to just, go where the jobs were, did the makeup at the department store, became a florist because rent in California is so expensive. And let's see, I guess that would be like the very, very beginning. And then it's kind of a very, like, I'll tell you guys, it is a journey. It's definitely up and down. Like right where you think you're getting somewhere, you might get slapped back down. But when you have a passion, you just have to keep going for it. I'll just like fast forward a little bit. I ended up getting in with MAC Cosmetics in the early mid-90s, which was like a very coveted, hard to get in job. I went to Hawaii through MAC, which was like incredible. But then I'm just going to be upfront about this because I know a lot of people have like mental health issues. I had extreme panic attacks, like crippling, and to where I had to leave Hawaii, like the most beautiful place. I had to leave because of that. So then that like set me back. So then I'm like, okay, well, now what do? I came to Oklahoma and I started doing weddings. And then we moved back. It's like I went back and forth moving between Oklahoma and California, just trying to like figure out where I was going to fit in with this whole industry. And where am I going with this? I have a really good point here. One of my brides in California, she worked for VH1. And she really liked me and thought I was very talented. And she would call me to work on various VH1 shows. But it was one of these things where if you don't answer the phone, they're just going to go to the next artist. So I literally just kept missing the call. Finally got a call to work with Hulk Hogan and his family for a VH1 Stars and Their Pets. And this is literally the best story because when they called me, they're like, hey, are you available to do makeup? And do you have a dog you could bring to the shoot? And I was like, a dog? Okay. And what's ironic about this is the day before I got this call, we were leaving California to move back to Oklahoma. This was like our first attempt to move back. And my dog was actually in a U-Haul back to Oklahoma, but I was still in California. And so I asked my brother, can I borrow your golden retriever for this photo shoot? And so I took the dog to the shoot with me. And the reason they needed this dog is because the whole article was about stars and their pets. And the Hogans could not travel with their dogs from Florida during the summer months. So they borrowed my brother's dog. And this is the best part. They made the cover of US Weekly, Stars and Their Pets. That was like the whole article. And my brother's dog had an OU Sooners collar on it. And the name of the article was called... A blonde family, because golden retriever is blonde. So that is, I feel like that's my origin, because I think like once I was able to finally get that phone call for the Hogan family, then it like just triggered a series of events where then I fell into this reality world. I worked on various reality shows, The Two Coreys, Breaking Bonaducci. yeah, documentary world. I feel like that would be like my basic start. And I think I could quit talking because I could keep going.
I love it. We're going to talk later about
Yeah, we got more stuff.
about how many times Hulk Hogan called you brother. I want to. Okay, Dalton, take it away.
So, I guess growing up, it was I was just really amazed by film and watching film, and I kind of figured it out to where I was just also attracted to makeup. I like to watch it on screen, and I was curious about it. And as I got older, it was I kind of let people get in my ear about that, and I didn't really think it was attainable, especially like living in Oklahoma, and I grew up in a super small town, and it just didn't really. It seemed out of reach for a long time, and I kind of took like a bad path for a lot of years, a decade, like over a decade, and I finally got my stuff together a little bit, and I went to makeup school here in Tulsa. Actually, I moved from Oklahoma City to Tulsa, quit my job, just moved out here, and went to school, and school was great. It was called Clary Sage College, if you're familiar. Great school. It gave me a great foundation. Through school, I worked for Lancome counter inside of Alta. That was also great for, to teach me how to be with people and makeup and learn about products and whatnot. And I think that same year, I graduated, and then Sharon and I had a mutual friend, and she introduced Sharon and I. Sharon gave me my first opportunity on a film. I interned for her, which was insane. It blew my mind, just being able to be where I wanted to be, and being in Oklahoma and working on, like with some actors that I've always watched on screen. It was just wild to me. And I'm just obsessed with my job. It's my full personality. I feel like, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love makeup. I love what I do. Sorry about that. And yeah, from that opportunity, it just kept building. I was persistent. I was broke for so long. It was a lot of struggle. And I was just persistent. Jobs just kept coming in, and I don't really know. It just kind of happened, and I think I felt the pull toward this career, and everything just kind of fell into place over the years, and so I think I'm supposed to be here, and yeah, I think I'll pass with that.
Thank you, Dalton. Hard work and being a good person pays off. David, take it away.
Well, I never did work with Hulk Hogan, but I did cut Steven Seagal's ponytail off. That's a story for another day. I went to college, university up in Northern California, a place called Humboldt State University. And at the time, it was the number 2 most saturated area for theater per capita in the country, besides New York. So I really was into theater, and I wanted to teach theater at a university as a career. So I went to school there to study theater. It really wasn't anything to do with makeup. But a buddy of mine and we would do the makeup for all the student films and the student plays. He was real serious about makeup, but I just was having fun and I enjoyed it. He left after after his bachelor's program to go down to LA and break into the film business. And I stuck around and I got my master's degree and finished that and just was working as a disc jockey. It had nothing to do with my studies. But one day after a few years had gone by, my friend called me up and said, "Hey, I'm working on this job down in LA, and we need more help. We need more makeup people. You want to come down? You can crash on my couch and I'll get you an interview and coach you through it. And who knows, maybe you can get a job with us." And I thought, well, okay, I'll try that. I went down to LA. From Humboldt to LA, that's, California is a long state, but I drove down there and stayed on his couch, and he got me the interview and coached me up, and I got the job. And I was just one of a bunch of people, but I spent 6 months acting like I knew what I was doing and watching the people beside me do their thing, and picked up a lot of stuff. And that movie happened to be Beetlejuice. And so it won the Oscar for Best Makeup that year. And so just by name association, it opened a lot of doors for me. And my friend, his name is Michael Mills, he introduced me to 5 different Oscar-winning makeup people that he had befriended. And so I was able to apprentice with these 5 different Oscar winners and pick up things along the way. And very soon, they started giving me the jobs they didn't want to do or couldn't do. And I started running my own jobs very, very early. But because I'd had the background in theater and I was able to hold my own. And I just started running shows. And then suddenly I got a job on a movie called Dances with Wolves. And when that movie came out, it just started a whole new flood of those kind of period movies. And so just by me having done Dances with Wolves, I got lots of job opportunities for, I became the Indian guy and the cowboy guy. And so I did Tombstone. I did a couple of the Lonesome Dove TV shows, The New World, the Terrence Malick movie, lots of creative projects like that. And it just snowballs, and it's been 38 years now that I've been doing this. Still don't know what I want to do for a living, but it just worked out that way, and so that's kind of what happened with me and how I landed on this.
We can all hope to have that humble beginning. Love that. So, Amy, take it away.
So I started my career in New Orleans when I was in my early 30s. Prior to that, I wore many different hats and many different occupations. New Orleans, small town, very tourist driven. I'd always had a love for fashion and hair and makeup, and I always did my friend's hair. I always did makeup. I played around with, special effects as a teenager. So I always had this love for it, and I was bartending, but I also wanted to be a makeup artist, and I wanted to do special effects makeup, and didn't have a lot of money. How am I going to go to school for this? Couldn't go to special effects school. The next thing would be, okay, I feel like I'm okay at hair. Okay, hair school, I can swing that. Just being in the right place, kept meeting the right people, ended up meeting a producer in New Orleans, and he helped me get my first job on set as a makeup assistant. And the first day that I was on set, I thought, oh my God, this is for me. This is what I want to do. How can I do this? And through that producer, met a makeup artist that worked pretty frequently in New Orleans at the time. And she hired me as a makeup assistant on Waiting. Not sure if anybody has seen that in here. Pretty huge deal for me. And I had decided at that time I was going to hair school. So right after I did the job on Waiting, went to hair school. Katrina happened, went through Katrina, ended up at a salon still wanting to do, makeup, and didn't know how I was going to do hair. again, met more people, ended up doing makeup at a Walmart for Maybelline. One of the other makeup artists was also a hairstylist working in the business. There were 5 hairdressers in New Orleans at the time, and she found out that I wanted to be a hairdresser, and so started working on set, and ended up with a man named Paul Anthony Morris, who became my my go-to. He taught me everything I know in the business, getting into it, and I had a lot of people championing me, and I think that's like one thing that you'll find in a lot of origin stories in the business, and probably anywhere else, is that you find people that champion for you, who support you and are like, yes, you can do this thing. And it was terrifying, but I loved it so much. And I was really lucky. Like, you know, I didn't know what I was doing when I started. Of course, I had no idea. And just kind of kept going and, you know, again, had somebody championing me, and ended up doing a lot of projects in New Orleans because there was a huge industry at the time, and just kept building my career. And now I've been doing it for 18 years and feel pretty lucky that I am where I am, because, you know, younger me starting out could never have imagined where I would be going.
Thank you so much, Amy. Kasey, take us away.
So my origin story, I knew from a very young age, I knew in elementary school that I wanted to do hair. So I kind of made a plan, and I thought, you know, I'm going to go to cosmetology school. So I was fortunate enough to do Tulsa Tech. So I did half a day at high school, then half a day at cosmetology school. And I graduated and got my license, and my very first job was Great Clips. And I was there for 4 weeks, and I was fired because I was too slow, because my haircuts were taking 20 minutes instead of 10. And I was devastated. So after that, I went to Supercuts. I worked there for 2 years. I had a really great manager. I learned a lot about hair from her. But I kind of felt burnt out a little bit, doing, you know, 15 to 20 quick haircuts a day can kind of burn you out pretty quick. So I decided that I wanted to see what the makeup world was about. So I got a job at iLoft in Utica Square in Tulsa, and I did makeup for a little bit, but then I saw their intern program, and it was a year-long intern program, and they really made sure that you knew what you were doing before they put you out on the floor. And so I switched, and I went into the intern program and graduated out of that. And I was a hairstylist there. I worked there for 12 years. I was a hairstylist there for 10. But I had always had a love for film, and I had always had this big dream of doing hair for film. And I didn't really think that would be a dream that would come true in Oklahoma. So I was just kind of like, well, here I am. I'm working in the salon. I loved what I did, but I always had that dream. And the department head of reservation dogs, she was the department head all 3 seasons. She wanted to have Native representation in the hair department for the show. And she had been to iLoft and had her hair done there, and she asked her hairstylist, do you have any Native hairstylists at your salon that would be interested in working in film? And everybody in the salon knew that, so my friend gave her my name. And so Krista called me for season 1, and she said, you know, this is a possibility. Is this something that you would be interested in? And I was like, oh, heck yeah, you know. And she said it's an apprenticeship, and you have to have never worked on a film set before. And I said, well, I haven't. But she didn't get approved for an apprentice for season 1. And so I was kind of like, well, there goes that dream, you know. And I had a really hard year that year. And but whenever I saw that Res Dogs got renewed for season 2, I reached out to Krista and I said, hey, I'm still interested in this, if this is a possibility. I would really love to be a part of the show. I got to, you know, watch season 1, and I was a fan of the show. And she emailed me back and said, well, you'll have to try to join the union. You got to, told me what to do. And I said, well, I work a full-time job. I just bought a house. I don't have time to do that. So there goes that dream again, but it's fine. And then I think it was about 3 weeks before season 2 started. She called me and she said, hey, I got approved for an apprentice. Can you do this? And are you still interested? And I said, yes, of course. And she said, well, you have to have never worked on a film set. I said, I still haven't. And she said, okay, great. And so I called my salon and I said, hey, cancel my clients for 3 months, move them all to this state and beyond. And, so I was an apprentice on Reservation Dogs. On the days that I was an apprentice, I didn't do hair because technically that's taking a job away from someone in the union. So I did a little bit of beadwork for the show. I created a piece to hold Spirit's feathers in place. And then I was fortunate enough that on the background days, she was able to get approval for me to bump up and be an additional. So I got 20 union days on season 2 of Res Dogs. And then right after that, we were filming, I think, the second to last episode of season 2. And she came up and she said, I talked to Dylan and Sharon, and I think that they're going to be able to get you on Fancy Dance. It starts right after this. And I was like, okay, great. That's awesome. I would love that, And so Sharon and Dylan brought me on to Fancy Dance, and I called my salon and said, move my clients again. And they were all very great about it. And then I did Fancy Dance. I got the rest of my union days. And then right after that, Sharon said, hey, I've got this Christmas movie coming up. And I was like, okay, move my clients again. And so I joined the union while we were doing the Christmas film, and I decided to bite the bullet and leave the salon. This industry is not consistent, so it was very scary. And I was a homeowner for less than a year, but the way I was raised is you'll figure it out, and I always knew that I had the salon to fall back on. And so I do think one thing that is really important in this industry is finding a really great mentor. Krista supported me so much and has helped me build this career, and Sharon as well. And Dylan as well. And so it's definitely a dream come true that I never would have imagined. And so after season 2 of Res Dogs, Krista hired me for season 3 as Key. And I felt very fortunate to move up that quickly. And then now I'm Key on The Sensitive Kind. And I'm just so grateful. And if you said to Kasey 4 years ago, like, you're going to be working in the film industry, I would have been like, oh, yeah, okay. But it's been really great. And I feel very, very fortunate.
Well, Kasey, you are a true success story, and thank you so much for all the hard work over the years. And also, you touched on something that I was going to get to later. Just for anyone interested on ways into the industry, the apprentice program that we do with any project that we have that's in the rebate queue is a wonderful way, and Kasey did it right and is now getting hired on pretty much any project that's coming into town. So I'm going to talk to my department heads here, Sharon, David, Amy. I'd like to kind of talk about working with talent and a director to create a character's look and to kind of lead the question here. Sharon, I'll point to you here first here. So talk about creating the look of the kids on Reservation Dogs, because it's a very natural look where you might not even guess that they had makeup on, but talk about how you come to create a character's look, and then we'll go down the line.
Okay, for the kids, Reservation Dogs, yeah, they should definitely look like they have no makeup on, and Sterling definitely doesn't want them to look like they have makeup on. So we had to create these no makeup looks. So to just give you an example, when they would show up at the beginning of the season, they would kind of be more fair than what we know they're going to get. And they, like, just for example, DeFaro will be like, I'm so white right now. Is there like anything we can do to make myself darker? So I had this formula at the beginning of each season. They'd come in, I would self-tan them, and you would never know that. But as the months went by and they're getting their actual sun and they're getting darker, I would start easing up. And usually by the end, we were done using the bronzer. But as far as creating their looks, I think like when we first started season 1, we just went by each character of like what they were going for. You know, Willie Jack, obviously like a tomboy type look. She didn't wear much makeup, but of course, like, you know, if she had blemishes or a little bit too much of a dark circle, we might knock it down just a little bit. We used like a very subtle tinted lip balm just to give her a natural flush to her lips. When it came to DeFaro, he was probably the most minimal. It was just more of his skin coloring. We just wanted to make sure that we kept that on point. And then if he had a blemish, of course. Cheese, you know, he had some pimples, and sometimes we just went with them. I mean, he was a teenager. It's okay to have some pimples. But one thing that happened really that was funny on season 1, one day we're shooting, and they're like, there's something white across his face. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's nothing white. Well, on camera, he'd been wearing a mask in between takes. I'm telling you, that day, the sun like tanned around his whole face, and then he had this like white thing in his mouth. And Selina and I are like at the last minute, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, we gotta bronze him like really fast. And so then that became a thing. Now we've got to watch for mask tans. So yeah, that was really great. And then when it came to Devery, she, her character, she was the one that probably did have more makeup on than the other kids. More of just like a little bit of a liner. We kept it pretty minimal and just tried to make them look like they had no makeup on. So.
Anyone in the audience wondering, because I got a question from the home office, what are the products to use for the no makeup look?
Honestly, it's technique, and it's just not using very much. I mean, it's just spot treating, and you just don't do full face type stuff. You just keep it really real, and then making sure you're moisturizing their skin to give it a little bit of a sheen. And then even throughout the day, if we did have to powder them, you got to find that balance, because you really don't want them to look powdered. So then we have to go in with like a moisture spray and knock it down if it looked too powdered.
Amazing.
So yeah.
David, how about yourself? What is your approach to creating a character in concert with both talent and the director?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm so jealous because I was not involved in Reservation Dogs, but that's one of my all-time favorite shows in the history of television. I love that show. It really resonates with me. As a matter of fact, our star on what we're working on now name is Ethan Hawke, and I've done a lot of things with Ethan. And we were doing a Marvel thing in Budapest, Hungary, and Ethan had a lot of free time, and what we would do is we would go into his trailer, and we'd watch an episode of Reservation Dogs, and we would just laugh our heads off. And love it. I mean, we watched episodes, and that was before season 3 came out. But we just binged them all. We watched them in Budapest, Hungary. We watched episodes of Reservation Dogs in the deserts of Jordan, and you can imagine how shocked and excited I was when Ethan told me he was going to do an episode of this thing, for season 3. But I'm jealous that I didn't get a chance to play on that show.
Big thanks to that man right there.
But in terms of building characters, yeah, I mean, there's another part of designing a character that we hadn't talked about is the writing. Is when you read the script first. We're all issued the script. We read the script and make our little mental notes, and then generally have a conversation with the director to find out what the director is looking for, and then you talk with the actor to find out what the actors, and then you do your research. I've done many things over the years that I knew nothing about. I did Dances with Wolves, and so I went and to the Southwest Indian Museum in Los Angeles, and and did as much research, just digging in as you possibly can. And one thing you have to be careful of is that there's so many self-proclaimed experts in anything you're researching. You have to kind of use your intuition to decide what really, because you'll talk to one person and they'll tell you something, this is the way it is, this is what it looks like, this is it. And then you talk to another one and it'll be totally opposite of that. It'll be totally different. So it's a fluid thing, the designs. And ultimately, it just comes down to the director, because the director is the one that has the direct line to the actor, and they're working it all out. And so what I do is I get the blueprint, and then I facilitate it. So it's not as much me just going out on my own and creating this thing and say, this is what you get. It's my job to facilitate what is out there. So
I love that. And then Amy, like you were telling me about some fun choices in the film Civil War. Can you talk about things like that where you can really create a memorable character with just like small flourishes and things like that?
Like he was saying, it's, a lot of the is the director. Each director is different. Each director has, a specific style. On Civil War, Alex Garland is very know nothing, but he likes things to look really weird. So he likes little weird things put in, and kind of gave us creative freedom. Okay, I want these 3 colors, do something with it. David was just saying, I look at, our job is we're a facilitator. We read the script, we talk to the director. The director is always already in line with the actors, the writers. So we just have to find a place to, okay, this is what you want. Let's facilitate this. A little more on Civil War. I don't know if anybody here has seen it. We have these snipers, and one of them has pink, blue, and green hair and pink, blue, and green nails, and there's just no reason for it. It's just weird. So it's fun doing things where you have a little more artistic freedom. Jesse Plemons in it. It's very subtle. I colored his hair in a really weird way, but you would never recognize it. It's just little touches on characters sometimes, that no one would ever pick up. It's just very, very subtle. Sterling likes to work very realistically, which I love doing. I think it's really distracting when you're watching something and someone's hair is too overdone. It would never look like that. They're running through the woods and dying and their hair is perfect. It's really distracting. Again, going back to the director, it's really what the director wants. And, your job is to find a way to meet with the director and what the actors want and be the middle person.
Perfect. And then Amy, you touched on something I wanted to get to. So this is for everyone on the panel, but I'll have you kick us off. Can you talk about working with hair and makeup together? Because they are different departments, but you are essentially working together. So can you everybody talk about the collaborative process of hair and makeup together?
Well, I think, it's talking about characters. The department heads are coming together to discuss these characters. Hey, this is what I would like to do with makeup. What do you think a hairstyle would be to go with that? In addition to hair and makeup working together, we work with costumes. A lot of projects, the costume designer is your boss. They are telling you, I need this character to have a hairstyle like this. I need a character to have hair color like this. It is a very collaborative thing, and it's really important in hair and makeup to have an ally that department heads should be working together, should be figuring out together. It is so important, because if makeup and hair are not on the right page and they take something to the director, if one of those things is off, it's just weird. It's frustrating.
Anything else, Sharon?
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I think wardrobe's a huge part of it, because a lot of times, we need to know what they're wearing so we can get a better idea of how it goes. But you kind of nailed that one. So
perfect.
Yeah.
So before I get into the weeds, this is more a question for people interested in coming into the industry here. So what would you say is some of the best advice? And I'll just go down the line here. Just the best advice you got along the way for your career that really helped you along the way?
Mine would be never stop learning.
Oh, I'd never shut up about that.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
learn every day.
Yep, absolutely.
I would just say stay persistent in the beginning. It'll pay off.
What was the question?
The best advice you had gotten at any point in your career that really helped you move forward.
Well, because we have to have such a tight relationship with the people you're working with, my best advice, well, first of all, in order to do your job, whether it be hairdresser or makeup artist or anything in the film business or any business, there's a level of competency, a bar that you have to cross over. You don't have to be the very best. It's nice and it helps, but you don't have to be the very best. You have to be competent enough to get the job done. Work on that, but even more important, work on your people skills, because there's so many people out there that you could hire. Who are you going to hire? You're going to hire people you want to work with, people you trust. You always have to be committed to something and don't leave that project. Whether you get a better offer, doesn't matter. Once your word is given and you're committed to a project, you do it. That's just it. So people can count on you. So make sure people can count on you. Make sure people want to work with you, and then make sure your competence level is there. But those are the areas to really consider. Not just, oh, I'm the best hairdresser in the world, because
Yeah, keep the megalomania at bay, basically. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Amy?
I mean, keep on learning. When I was doing makeup, I was doing strippers. So I could learn how to do different textures, different skin tones. If you're doing hair, practice on your friends. There's an unlimited amount of resources on the web now. You can learn how to, and it may not exactly be the right way, but it gives you an idea of, this is how I want to do this, period hairstyling. I think the other thing is listen. You don't know everything. I've been in the industry 18 years. I don't know anything. And you can learn something from everyone, every single person that you work with, even if they're inexperienced, you can still learn something. So learn, go out there and learn and listen.
I think everybody kind of covered it. But I also think, one big thing is to stay humble, and to listen, and then to also, be professional. Set etiquette is a really huge part of being in this industry. You have to know when you can talk to people. You have to know when it's time to do your job. You have to know, to be respectful. And yeah, I think mostly staying humble, listening, and having a good set etiquette can get you a good way into the industry.
I love that. And we essentially have a master class up here in terms of working with talent. And talent, they're like big name talent. They're some of the most hunted people on the face of this planet. Like they can't even go to the grocery store without being swamped. And the key is just like really treating them like normal people. So can you give just down the line, however you choose to address this, like tips on for people interested in this industry on just working with talent? Like how do you really approach talent just from almost like a therapeutic standpoint?
I mean, like you said, you just treat them like real people. And number one, you read the room. Like when they come in, like what I think Kasey was talking about, like you just have to be respectful. And just, I mean, literally, I think it's just, what I realize is that like when I have worked with celebrities and they're huge, like the minute they're in front of your face, like I've worked with them. I thought I got really excited one time I got to work with, oh my gosh, hang on. What's his name?
You said a lot of these stories. Was it Harrison Ford? Was it?
It was Harrison Ford.
I got you.
It was Harrison Ford. So when I found out I was going to get to work with him, I was just like, oh my God, it's Harrison Ford. But the minute like he was right in front of me, it was just like all of that went away. And it was just, he was just a guy, and he was just really cool, and he was just really nice, and I treated him as such. You don't get giddy, you don't get weird, you don't sit there and say I'm your biggest fan, or you don't say, oh, you're my mom's. You just treat them like a normal person, like you would anybody else. And I think they will like completely respect that. And the biggest thing is like also give them their space. Like I've had so many actors, they come in and they don't talk, but it's not that they're trying to be rude. It's not that it's like they have a lot going on in their head. They've got all these scenes coming up, and they are around the clock. They're studying lines. They've just got a lot on their mind. So and if they feel like talking, then yeah, go and just small talk it though. You don't need to be like divulging your deepest secrets. Just be cordial and polite. And it just basically comes down to customer service, but also, just being real.
Exactly. And it's like no shame in name dropping, because I'm about to do the same thing. Like I was working with Aaron Eckhart, and he was telling a Philip Seymour Hoffman story. And he was saying like, Phil loved everybody. He tried to learn everyone's name. He tried to be the best person on set. But he said, what I want everyone to understand is I can't always be the best person on set, because I have to act like my family just died in a fire right now. So please, understand that I might not be in a great headspace today.
And especially, I think, like, if it's like a deep content, sometimes the actors, I've noticed, like, if it's something really deep, like I had worked on Rudderless with Billy Crudup, and he was dealing with the, I don't know if you guys have seen Rudderless, but his son committed, like, a mass murder at a college. So Billy was, like, literally every day just, like, in this. It was horrible, because you, like, want to console them, because, like, you feel like they're upset, but they're dealing with some really deep stuff. So you just give them their space, and they feel like talking, then you can say, what's up?
Dalton, you have any particular approach on your end?
I would just say, before you go in, just leave your baggage at the door. And I'm pretty reserved and quiet, so I think that helped me quite a bit. Usually, if I have an actor in the chair, I do talk to them, and I'll echo on the read the room again. You just kind of gauge, like, if I let them speak to me first, and just kind of gauge like where they want to take the conversation, and just kind of vibe with it. So yeah.
Well, it kind of goes back to, like Sharon was saying, you got to read the room. In our position, we're kind of in a unique position working with the stars. They give you their wedding rings to hold while they're working, their wallets, whatever. They confide in you if something's not going right. They have to be able to trust you. If you aren't going to go out and blab about everything to them, that they're not going to open up to you. They're not, So it really does boil down to making them feel safe. And that's easy to do, because when you're working on a project like that, you have a goal that's the same, and you're working together. So the egos, by and large, are pretty much checked at the door when the actors come to work, So that's kind of my thing, is to just give them something to trust.
Yes, trust is absolutely everything.
And having said that, who wears a hairpiece? Oh, no.
oh, we got stories. We also have hair plug stories too. Amy?
I think it's important for people to feel like they're being seen and heard. That's kind of a rule I always go into meeting actors and putting them at ease, is who doesn't want to be seen and heard? It's a really easy concept. That's it.
That's gold. Kasey?
For me, I feel like I had a little bit of an advantage coming from the salon world, because to me, it's a client in my chair, and my goal is to make that client happy, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make that client happy. And so, it's big on reading the room, reading the person in your chair, kind of feeling out their vibe on, are we talking today? Are we quiet? Are we, what are we doing? But I definitely think, like I said, I think I did have that advantage, because to me, I'm like, this is a client in my chair. Although I will say, my first or second week on Res Dogs, Krista says, "Oh, we've got to talk about what we're going to do on Megan Mullally." And I was like, "I'm sorry, who?" And she said, "Yeah, Megan Mullally." And I was like, "Okay, but you mean like Karen from Will and Grace?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, Kasey, don't be weird. Don't ruin this job. It's okay. You can handle it. Just don't show how excited you are." So I also think, you can be excited about meeting somebody. You can be a fan of someone and meet them. You just have to figure out how to kind of internally hide that and,
Internally freaking out.
and just be like, okay, this is just a client in my chair. And then whenever they walk out, you can be like, "Oh my God, that was so cool." So you don't have to not be excited, but I think that, you just have to treat them. Yeah, you have to be able to rein it in, treat them like a person and just treat them like any other person. Like I said, to me, I'm like, this is just a client in my chair and I am here to make them happy. And that is my main goal.
I love that. All right, so Sharon, I've had the fortune of working with you for many years now, and I know, can you talk about support from family at the beginning, and then also you are fortunate enough to work with your family as well. So can you kind of talk about the family aspect of everything in this business?
Okay, yeah, this is definitely two parts. So let's start in the beginning. Okay, so when I was in high school, it goes back to high school. Again, everybody was asking me, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" Of course, I was depressed because I didn't want to be an art teacher, and that's what my family was pushing me to be. Okay, well, I was not the best student in school, and my dad, my senior year of high school, he gives me a card that says, "Just remember, beauty school is only 3 Fs away." Okay, so so it's really pretty bad. Of course, my friends that saw that were just literally mortified. They were like, "I cannot believe your dad said that. You should literally go to cosmetology school because you're so good at your hair and makeup." But in my mind, not even for 1 second iota did I even think about doing cosmetology because I thought that was for stupid people. That is what you do when you are a very good student. And I was not about to do that. So again, I'm like, I'm going to college and I'm going to do something with art. I just don't know what. But a little backstory with that, which I wish my dad would have told me. I just don't know if he just didn't know or maybe he forgot about it because my dad's very forgetful. But he had 10 aunts from Texas, and the oldest aunt went to California. I want to say it was the 30s or 40s. It was decades ago. She went out to California. She put herself through hair school, and she opened up a salon in Los Angeles. Okay, well, once she did that, she one by one, got her sisters. She would literally pay to travel them out to California. She'd put them through beauty school, and she opened up a chain of salons in Los Angeles, decades ago. And that particular aunt that did all that, she bought a ton of property in Los Angeles. So when she died, she was a billionaire. And I am like, how come I did not know that story until I was probably in my late 20s. And I'm like, I really wish I would have known that information back then. It would just have me look at things a lot different. And since then, my daughter has gone to cosmetology school. My niece, who was born and raised in California, she went to cosmetology school. They're both working in the film industry now. My son works in the film industry. He is a rigging electric, and my husband is a Teamster. It just keeps going on and on. And what's really funny is my brother, who still does live in California, he actually, I wouldn't say this is going to sound, he didn't kick his daughter out, but he nudged her, "You're going to go to Oklahoma to learn the film industry." So she has been living here with us for 2 years and is in the process of joining the union, and she's great, and she gets it. So I know my whole family, we're just creating this whole thing.
I love that because you can have it be separate or apart in this world, and so you don't have to have it one way or the other.
This is so true. That. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And then before we kind of kick it off here, bringing in the Q&A portion here, I want to go down the line and kind of talk about, we've got a lot of great projects under everyone's belt here. Kind of tell me about your favorite project, a little story from your favorite project, and not Reservation Dogs.
Okay, so it can't be Reservation Dogs. Okay, let me. And
Unless there's a really good story.
And it can't be the sensitive kind either, right? It's just something that's outside of this. Okay, well, okay, it would actually be something that I did pretty recent. In the fall, I got to work on a project called A Great Awakening, and it filmed in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it was a period shoot set in the 1700s, from the early 1700s to 1787, and it's a story about Ben Franklin and another gentleman named George Whitfield. And so I had to go through multiple decades of aging them. So that was really incredible. But the production that I worked for was absolutely amazing, and the production value is incredible, and I can't wait for it to come out. But doing a period piece is a whole thing. So when they hired me, I have to tell you this, they told me I was going to have 90 prep days, which to me was just
insane.
Like, wait, what? 90?
Movies that we don't even get to shoot 90.
And these people are newer with films. They're a little newer. So I just kind of thought it was an error. And I'm like, I am not going to need 90 days. There's no way. But after seeing the way that they worked and the way things were, I probably could have pretty almost used all that. But it was still incredible just being supported with all that. And it was just a great overall experience.
I love it. Yeah. Dalton, how about yourself?
I would have to say 1883. That was the first job where I got to, fly out of state and work for 3 months and make great money and just be amongst all the great cast and crew. So yeah, I love that show. Great show.
Yeah, I was there for their Civil War days. I've never seen more money spent in my entire life. And I look across this battlefield, I'm like, is that Tom Hanks in the Civil War get up right now? Like, how are you flexing that hard? David?
Well, I mean, I got so many stories from different projects that are dear to me for different reasons. But you and I were talking yesterday about Face Off. And another story popped into my head after you and I were talking.
I've fought myself to not turn this into a 2-hour conversation about Face Off, just so you know. Take it away.
I don't know if anybody's seen, well, I mean, how many people have seen Face Off? It was a big deal when it came out. Yeah. And I'd done a couple of jobs with John Travolta, and so we were pretty friendly. And one day we were filming this sequence where there was a big boat chase out in the dock or out in the bay of San Pedro down in Los Angeles. Big, complicated boat sequence. And John's character was covered in seaweed and sand and just drenched in this yucky dock water of San Pedro. And we're sitting on this little sandbar, and we shot that movie for 20 weeks. And John looked over at me and he said, "You know what, David? If I could think of something else where I could make $1 million a week, I'd do it." I said, "Cry me a river, John." But he did. He made $1 million a week for 20 weeks filming that thing. So
you too, everybody, can earn $1 million a week, wrangling crazy people and having dubs in a lot of shots. All right, Amy, take it away.
I think mine so far, and like he's saying, there are a lot of projects that are super memorable and you have favorite things that you think of. But Preacher, I did 2 seasons of Preacher in New Orleans. And the second season that we did was so hard, but it prepared me I was like, after this, I can do anything. I can handle anything. They gave me 2 days to come up with 40 of the same wigs for one scene. And luckily, I knew somebody at a wig shop that was able to order them overnight. And I had a slew of hairdressers just like cutting them all the same. But I loved that project because there was a very deep sense of family. The crew, the cast, we all really loved each other and we really liked each other a lot. And, a hard job can be great because you can handle anything after that.
Yeah, that's intense. Kasey?
It's kind of related to Reservation Dogs, but
okay.
My favorite was Fancy Dance. It was, my second production besides Reservation Dogs that I had ever worked on. But since I had been new to Res Dogs on season 2 and then went on to Fancy Dance, I got to know the crew more. We had a really great team, but mostly I just really loved the story and, the message that Erica Tremblay was trying to get across. And working with her and working with Lily Gladstone as well. And yeah, I think Fancy Dance was one of my favorites. Another one was one that I did with Sharon, and it was my very first department head job, but it was Cottonmouth. And that one was a Western, so I got to play with dirt and sweat, and but also do period hair as well, which was a lot of fun. It was set in the early 1900s, so I got to do, Gibson girl styles and things like that, and it was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. And then I'm going to kick it out 2 questions from the audience here. So if you'll ask your question, I'll repeat it, and then we'll go from there. So anybody? Right here up front.
But just a couple of lines I got from you all is just career-wise, you got to get Phoenix. Sometimes you rise, sometimes you learn, but then you rise again. And also, not just survival of the most talented, but also you go a long way by it's also survival of the nicest or most approachable, friendly. So as introverts, I find that encouraging advice. So thank you.
Nobody wants to talk to a jerk, ever.
True story. And then just from a hiring standpoint, I would rather hire someone that has a good heart and has not had one day on set as opposed to someone that's been doing it for years and is awful to work with. So yes, just be a good person, and you'll eventually come out of your shell. So thank you for that very much. Any questions? Okay, right here. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So oh no, how do we make it through this day scenario? Whoever has a great story, take us away.
I mean, the heat in the summer is brutal for makeup, so we really have to stay on top of it.
And same thing with the cold. You got runny noses and red noses, and so then you got to try to make it look like they're not freezing. And yeah, I mean, same thing in the heat. It's because there's just such extreme heat, or extreme temperatures. But yeah, same thing.
I mean, going back to Dance with Wolves again, in terms of the weather, we shot this thing in South Dakota, and I don't think there is even a tree in South Dakota. It was just the plains, just no shade. We shot this sequence, a buffalo hunting sequence, and in reality, with our research, they didn't. The hunters didn't wear war paint when they went hunting, but in order to film this sequence, we had to hire expert cowboys from all over the country to be in this, to be able to ride, because we had a herd of buffalo, 3,500 head of buffalo, and once they start moving, you're on your own, and they all had to ride bareback and act like they were shooting. So they had to have mad, crazy horsemanship skills. And so we had to disguise them. And so we put war paint on them and lathered them up with sunscreen. But it was just so hot and bright sun that when the day was finished and they all came back through the makeup trailer to get cleaned up, we'd wipe all this makeup off, and they'd have suntan lines where their war paint was. No matter how much sunscreen you lather on them, it made it pretty brutal, the weather for that.
I worked on 12 Years a Slave, and that was actually made me not want to do film during summertime ever again.
I worked on a film last summer, and the Oklahoma heat was just brutal, but it was also the elements on top of that. We were in the middle of nowhere on a ranch, and it's hot. The sun is beaming down. There's no trees. They are able to pop up tents for you and stuff, but you really have to be very aware and take care of yourself and hydrate and all of that. But every single day, me and my department would just be like, God, that shower tonight. Oh, that shower tonight. Because, it was so hot outside, so you're sweating, but then you also want to protect yourself from the sun. So you've got on sunscreen, and then there's dirt flying everywhere. So you've got, sunscreen, bug spray, dirt caked all over your body and sweating on top of that. And I think that the summertime the winter, you can keep layering up, but the summertime, it just can get really, really brutal.
The joys of working in Oklahoma.
Also, lightning delays are pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah. Another 30 minutes goes by. And then just from a production standpoint and a life standpoint, we've made it through every bad day we've ever faced. The sun will rise, the sun will set, and then we get to do it again. So if a bad day happens, it'll be over soon enough. All right, more questions? Yes. How do you decide what direction to take, or does it all just kind of run together? If you can kind of take the way from there.
Well, I think in the beginning, I think it is good that you can do all, because I think when you're first getting your start, it does help that you can do both, but that's more in like a non-union aspect of things. If you're wanting to get into film and work on the bigger projects, you've got to choose one or the other. And there's not really a nail department. Sometimes, you'll call in a nail tech for something specific, but you would need to choose makeup or hair when you get to that point. But it is good to be able to do both. It's like really important, I feel like. And a lot of the non-union projects, we do hair and makeup both. And even when you're in the union, the cool thing about living in Oklahoma is you can still do non-union projects and the union projects. So you just got to find out like which you like better. But if you're doing both, as you're doing them, you'll probably figure it out.
And I still do weddings and, commercial. So like there's opportunity to do it all. So.
Yeah, I think it's great that you do both too. How I decided was there are way less hairdressers than there are makeup artists. And so hairdressers get more work than makeup artists usually do. It's just, you have to be licensed. And that's how I figured it out. I was like, I like doing hair and there's no hairdressers. So
Yeah, there's no shame in wearing many hats here. All right, Bex.
So I actually am in the location department, but I wanted to attend the session to learn more about what you all go through on a daily basis to help me be better at my job, to make your job better. So my question is, what does the location department do for your wardrobe that makes you crazy? And what can we do to make your day better? Because I actually, I've never heard anyone else say this, but no offense to any other departments, but I've always kind of felt that hair and makeup was one of the most important departments on set, because you do set the tone with the actors when they get there. And so I always want to make sure that I've got your department set up flawlessly, so you're in a great mood. So when the actors come in, they're not set off by your vibe, because I've already made you guys feel great. That's my objective. So how can I continue that?
Okay, inside baseball question. Great. Okay, so how can the locations department make the lives better for the hair and makeup departments?
Okay, well, first of all, isn't locations in charge of parking?
Yes, yes.
So
That's what I was going to say.
So yes, we're going to make it so you can park right into
I
your
always
trailer.
am just having a lot of things I have to carry to and from my car, and that's just probably me. But also, I don't know, since we do set the tone, I feel like we should get some VIP parking for our...
We just want to park at base camp.
Yeah, we just that's the whole thing. Because sometimes even in the middle of the day, we have to run errands every now and then and things like that. So I don't know. That's my excuse when I tell JD. But yeah, might have to go somewhere later. I guess the other thing too would just maybe be like when we have big background days, just making sure that we have stations and tables. I mean, it's just. I mean, I don't really have any big complaints about locations. It would just be the parking. But yeah, no. But for real, no. I mean, that's the only thing I can really think of. Just making sure that we have a good setup for when we have background.
Being proactive and reaching out to the department head is really amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bex. Joe.
My question is, how do you track my life? Is it film? Is it on the runway, Glamour magazine? Like, how do you guys research the creative juice to go live in between projects? Like, what inspires you guys in between everything? I was going to think the show, maybe it's like you're focused with that. Like, what drives you guys between the what's with juices?
Excellent question, Joe. So what is your source of inspiration and creativity in your downtime between projects? What keeps you going? What gives you fresh inspiration?
I would say there's inspiration everywhere. If you're looking for it, even if you're not sometimes, but I would say the main thing just working with new artists and seeing how they do things and seeing the looks that they create, stuff, that's where I get inspiration and the fire to, to keep learning and whatnot. So
I will try to mix. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I guess in between, like I'll do other projects. I might go and do some editorial work. I follow a lot of fashion trends, try to stay on top of that. I love doing creative, like beauty things where it's like something, I have a thing with like clean, simple makeup that might just have like a colorful eye or a funny, or not funny, but like a asymmetrical eyeliner, just something simple. So I try to stay on top of the trends and and then travel and fashion.
Learning. That's what I do in between jobs. Seriously. If I have money saved up, like I've gone to England and studied historical hairstyling. When I get into a rut where I'm like, I'm so burnt out from this job, I just go learn, or I go help somebody with something, or I go do hair for free. It just kind of keep it going.
Well, for me, in between projects, it's not so much that I'm looking for something to get me going and really excited or anything. I'll watch a lot of TV because that's kind of my research too. But when I actually get a project, what really gets me going and really exciting is the opportunity to do some research. I'll look through the script and then pick those points where I really want to dig in. Like for instance, I did a job where I needed to. There was a character that gets burned really badly. He was a firefighter. It was a movie called Ladder 49, and this character gets burned. I don't know anything about major severe burns. So I get really excited. Wow, well, I get to research this. And the beauty of doing film is that it opens doors for you. When you really want to research something, people really want to go out of their way to help you because they want you to get it right. So I called up, I usually did my medical research at the UCLA Medical Center. And I called them up, and I live in Central California, kind of an hour outside of a place called Fresno, of all places. And the guy, my contact at UCLA Medical Center said, "Why are you asking us about burns? You're really close to one of the most premier burn centers in all of the United States in Fresno." And I said, "What? Really?" And so I said, "Okay, I'll try them. So I called the burn center in Fresno, and the director of the burn center said, really? You want to do some research about these severe burns? Well, why don't you come up here, spend a week with me, follow me on my rounds, scrub into my reconstruction and skin graft surgeries. And he took me under his wing just because he wanted to make sure that I got it right. And I asked him, well, why is it that Fresno is such a premier, highly regarded place for burns? And he said, because we have all the meth labs and they explode and we get meth victims every day. And I had no idea. But he was able to, I mean, I learned so much just by shadowing him, but he was so happy to do it. And where else can you get that kind of access? And that excites me. That really gets me going.
I would definitely say education, taking classes, learning, something for me, I'm really interested in learning about wigs, so trying to take wig classes, but also, doing research and watching, like David said, watching a lot of TV. I will watch something and I'll just sit there and I'll watch the hair the entire time. And sometimes I'm watching it trying to figure out how they did that. Or sometimes I'm looking to be like, okay, can I see the lace on that wig? Or, oh, that was tucked in that scene and then it panned to a different one and now it's untucked. I like to watch and look for certain things in film, but majority of the time in film and in real life, I'm almost always constantly looking at people's hair. If you see me just kind of randomly staring at you, I'm probably looking at your hair. But yeah, I would say like one big show was Bridgerton. I mean, the wigs on that are insane. And the entire time I was watching it, I was like, okay, is that a full wig? Is that a half wig? How did they style that? How did they, so it's just really watching stuff like that and then trying to figure out in your brain how you do that. And then also with education, with hair, there's so many different techniques to get the same result. So I like to learn any and every technique that I can to figure out how to get that same result and then decide which technique I like to use.
And I'm going to touch on this again too. Well, first of all, I promise when I'm looking at you, I'm not looking at your makeup. I really don't. I promise. But again, when I do have downtime, I did forget, because I kind of did this a lot more backwards. My whole career path is backwards. I now, on time off, I will take some of the money that I've made from the projects that I've worked on, and I'll go to LA and I will take like one-on-one classes with like top artists and things like that, and just try to learn even like more advanced type stuff that I can just keep evolving, especially as the Oklahoma market does continue to grow. I want to make sure that, you can get top skill level here just as you can anywhere else, or LA or New York.
All right, thank you, everybody. Any more questions? Okay, Opal, hit us. So did you actively seek out mentorship whenever you're starting out in the film industry?
I wish that I had, but I truly knew nobody, like zero. It was 1991. And again, I think that is so important because that's actually how I got Dalton, because he reached out to me and asked if he could intern with me. I think it's a timing thing. I think it's hard because I have had a lot of people reach out to me for that. And it really just depends. And it's also one of those things like you may have to kind of stay in touch with that person, because I'm not just going to save somebody's name because I get a lot of people that inquire. But I think getting a mentorship and finding somebody to work under is just amazing. I think that's probably the best thing, like to get a start in your career.
And then also, Dalton, go ahead. I was just going to say, this raises an interesting question for folks that are interested in the industry here. Could we go down the line here talking about your favorite ways, maybe even early on, not necessarily current day, but of making connections, like making inroads into the industry?
Okay, it is all networking. as soon as there was an internet in the mid 90s, I am not kidding you. I joined every type of forum and group that I could find just so I could get knowledge, so I could talk to people that were in this industry. And I think it just continues to be an ongoing thing. I think you should go to like where you guys are at right now. You guys are meeting people in here that are interested in the industry and people that are in the industry. Go to any type of networking event you can. I think being in person is better, but there's obviously lots of online information as well. So I think it's very, very, very important.
I would say just if you start getting opportunities, say yes to everything. Like even if they don't pay, just be there. People, you get in front of people and they'll remember you. And just work. You'll have to work for free a lot. Like I did. I did so much for so little for so long, and it paid off. So
I still do work for free.
I do too.
That way I can meet new people.
33 years and I'm still doing free things.
Wonderful. Any more questions? Emily Long.
You guys look ahead at like what's going on in your career to be ready for this business?
So great question from Emily here. So there are niche needs within the industry. How do you forecast forward to prepare yourself to be ready for instances like that? Or do you have a plan of attack for that?
That is a pretty interesting question because a lot of times makeup is kind of segregated into specialties. I've always been the kind of person who loves to have projects to where I can do a little of it all. There are friends of mine who do nothing but special makeup effects, and then there are friends of mine who do nothing but beauty makeups and straight makeups and things like that. I think that for my career, it's worked out well that I was able to do it all because they would hire me and I would just take care of it. There's movies that have bullet wounds and severed limbs and things like that, but then you got to powder the noses too. Where I was going with that is that when I first started out, I worked in all the makeup labs in Los Angeles. I worked for Oscar winners like Lance Anderson and Steve Laporte and Rick Baker. And so I picked up the techniques of being able to do the prosthetic stuff, the sculpting, the mold making, the castings, the painting. All of those things help me be a more rounded person, and I think it opened up more opportunities for me like that. But as I've gotten older and more established with my credits and whatnot, the only time I'll just get in my shop and do stuff if I don't have a specific project in mind would be the times when I heard about a new material that I want to play with, and that happens occasionally, but I'm not motivated to just sculpt a monster head and not get paid for it, But there was a time when I first started out because that also helped me develop the ability to do those kind of things. So.
I think being adaptable and curious you can never really be prepared for everything being thrown at you, right? So being adaptable and curious about what you're doing, how can I make this work? I think and I can say this for makeup sometimes too, for a lot of hair things it's hair crafts and, just how the heck do I do this? It's a lot of like troubleshooting, if I cut this wig up and use this one little tiny piece, is this going to make the thing that I need? It's just being adaptable and curious kind of helps prepare you and not freaking out.
Yeah, there was a situation on Cottonmouth with Sharon and I where a stunt coordinator last minute was like, hey, this guy with a mullet is going to double somebody bald. And so Sharon and I were trying to figure out like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do? So I just kind of got the wheels turning in my head and I was like, okay, let's double up some wig caps and glue it around his scalp. And then Sharon painted it to make it look like it was a head and he put his hat on and it worked out great. So sometimes there are times where you have to get creative and kind of work together to try to figure something out and play off of each other's ideas and, and just the whole department in itself. Sometimes we all kind of work together to kind of be like, how can I pull this off without having what I need right now?
It's like under promise, over deliver. Like that's
The big question was, the mullet was okay though, right?
Oh, the mullet was just fine.
Thank God. Okay. All right, we have time for one last question here before we bring this to a close. Anyone else? Well, on that note, it's much love and gratitude to our panelists here and to everybody that attended. Next week, we are going to have production design. We're going to have folks from our art department and our props world as well. So thank you all so very much for coming out, and give a round of applause to all of our panelists here, please. Okay. Thank you all so much.